Hello, fellow Star Wars fans, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about some Star Wars comics that came out for the week of July 20th. We have 3 issues to talk about. The first one is a biggie, because this is Star Wars issue number 25. And what's significant about this is Charles Soule, who you probably know, heard the name if you watch my channel. He's written not only High Republic, but a lot of comics. He is celebrating his 100th script written for Star Wars comics. So this is celebrating 4 stories. We got the story with Kylo Ren, Obi-Wan, Darth Vader, Poe Dameron. I also picked up this insanely cool variant cover here, the 1 in 25 variant cover. Every character, Charles Soule, most of the characters he has ever touched is on this cover. Really, really neat. I had to pick this one up. So we have 4 different stories, and it's a celebration for Charles Soule because he's also bringing along all of the artists that worked on these stories. So we have Obi-Wan and Anakin, the lesson, and he has good old Ramon Rosanas on that one. For the artwork, we have Darth Vader, the lesson, Giuseppe Camuncoli, the legendary. We have Kylo Ren, See You Around Kid. That story is, of course, penciled by Will Slidey. And finally, we have Poe Dameron, a eulogy for Snap. That one is written, or not written, but drawn by the legendary Phil Noto. So we're going to dive into each of these stories individually. The first one being Obi-Wan and Anakin. I love this story because it's all about Anakin training with Kenobi before the events of Attack of the Clones. And it's all about the lightsaber, the significance of the lightsaber. Why do Jedi still use the lightsaber when they can have different technologies to create different things? And when it all comes down to it, the Jedi have to have the Force to be able to use a lightsaber, right? Like anybody could pick up a blaster and shoot a kyber crystal out of it or something like that, right? Or a bomb or something they were explaining. But when it comes down to it, a Jedi is given his reverence and his respect because he can control a lightsaber. It's an elegant weapon. It shows that they have power. It shows that they are protectors, defenders. I really like that about that. And if we're moving on to the Darth Vader story, and these are all just like 4 or 5 pages each a piece, that story is actually the antithesis of that. So the Sith, they're using the lightsabers, yes, because they're going up against Jedi, but for them, it's more about the power. It's more about the Force. So what's happening in that story is Palpatine, somewhere after the events of Revenge of the Sith, when Vader's still young, is dueling the Emperor in the works on Coruscant. He's fighting him, and the Emperor still kicks his ass pretty hard and ends up taking his lightsaber away from him. And Vader says, "I understand, Master." And it's going all about the lessons of the dark side. So really cool stuff there. Then we have that Kylo Ren story, and that one is awesome because this is in between the events of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. And it encapsulates an idea that I always thought we would see in The Rise of Skywalker, but was lacking from The Rise of Skywalker. And it's the fact that, as it says in the title, Luke says when he's in his forced projection thing, "I'll see you around, kid." And I always took that as, okay, Luke is going to haunt Kylo Ren. He's going to haunt Ben Solo's previous apprentice for the rest of his days. And we don't really see that. But in this issue, we kind of do. We see the repercussions of what that duel with his old master was. So he goes back to create. He's trying to find Luke. He goes to Elfrona, which is that place they went to Loras and Tekka with when he was a lot younger. He even shows up back to that we now know the location of the Jedi Temple being on Ossus. We learned that from Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher. He is going insane in his head. Kylo Ren wants to track down Luke, and he's just going insane. He's unleashing his terror, his fierceness, as you would expect. He even says, "Blow this place apart" to General Hux, and he orbit bombs, as we could see, Ossus. So that's really cool. A story that had significance there. But a story that had the most significance for me and what moved me the most out of a lot of comics that have come out in the last year is the Poe Dameron story called A Eulogy for Snap. This is the first story that comes place in the canon timeline after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. Granted, we're not giving much room, again, 4 or 5 pages on this one, but we have the Black Squadron crew of Kari, Suralinda, Poe Dameron, and all these characters, and Jess Pava, of course, all these characters just pouring one out for Snap Wexley. We don't see a whole lot of downplay of what's going on with him at the ceremony. The Rise of the Resistance book, or Resistance Reborn, sorry. We see a lot of Snap, that relationship between him and Wedge Antilles, as Wedge Antilles is like his adoptive father with Nora Wexley, his mother, and all that kind of thing. So we get a lot out of that, but we don't get any acknowledgement about in the actual movie. Of course, they didn't really have time for every character to get their goodbyes. But this is that goodbye. This is the issue that's going to give you that closure that I think we needed that I never knew we needed was fantastic. They were just going around the campfire, going around the circle while they're on Asian Colossus. Everybody else is partying. Poe Dameron is literally saying, look, we can put off the strategizing with the First Order and taking out the remnants and all that stuff another day. Right now, we're spending time respecting our friend and knowing in our hearts that he's going to be with us forever, and it wouldn't have gotten us this far without Snap. So everybody went around the circle to tell everybody about what they thought about the character of Tem and Snap Wexley. So I thought that was phenomenal, and it really pulled on my heartstrings, man. I mean, it's hard for comics to do that for me, but this one definitely hit me in the field. So fantastic celebration. These are just, of course, some of the stories that Charles Soule has wrote. He also wrote the miniseries for Orlando, and he's currently writing these Star Wars comics and more of the Bounty Hunters and all that stuff that's going on between ESB and ROTJ. So fantastic. Pick this one up if you are available to pick one up at a comic book store. But that wasn't all for this week. We have the next issue number 25 of Darth Vader. This one is called No Calm Before the Storm. So last we left off, we have Vader, who is hunting down an Imperial Governor that happens to be a Crimson Dawn agent. So he's in hot pursuit. He's on a speeder bike. He's trying to get after her. She gets away to the Star Destroyer. He ends up going down or up to that Star Destroyer, taking out all the characters there that are betraying him, and finds out that the governor went to this other place on the surface of the planet he just left from, and that's where we get the Sabe story. She is also going to the same location from the information she had received. She's on speeder bikes, and apparently there's a storm that has happened. This different power weapon that's been developing to kill planets, apparently, it all comes from this area. This epicenter that is sending out these big sandstorms. So we have looks like Padme, Sabe going there and just causing, trying to stop that thing. It doesn't happen. And basically Vader ends up there anyway in the long term things. And that's where this issue ends. But we got a lot of cool scenes of Vader slaying on the Star Destroyer, not only Crimson Dawn agents, but just battle droids in general. Seeing the battle droids coming back in this post-ESB era is what I love about the comics and the novels. We don't see any aftermath of them in the movies. Maybe we'll get a special edition one day with some B1s and B2s in the background, stuff like that. But for now, we rely on the comics to really see how that fleshing out of the prequels and the original trilogy goes hand in hand. So love that. And just a planet siphoning weapon. Just the look of it reminds me of something from you'd see in Legends. So it's bringing that kind of cool, like kind of pulpy kind of storylines back into Star Wars, so you gotta love it. And finally, for this week, we have Han Solo and Chewbacca, issue number 4. This one's called The Crystal Run Part 4. So they're on a mission for Jabba the Hutt. They have since ditched Greedo to try to get their earnings back, but it's basically Han Solo, his quote-unquote father, as well as Chewbacca. They had at this location to get the item that Jabba wants. And last we picked up, Black Krrsantan shows up on scene and shoots a stun bolt at Han Solo's fake father, or whatever. So we pick up from there, and apparently Chewbacca was not there around when that happened, so you had Han Solo being carted off by Black Krrsantan back to this planet for this guy that had that item to begin with, this rich dude from Corellia. So we have this story that's a lot about Chewbacca in this issue, Chewbacca going any way he can to get back to his good old buddy Han. He's taking a Falcon back there, and we have the big fight between Black Krrsantan and Chewbacca. That was awesome. They go tooth and nail. There's a big 2-spread sheet, big image of them fighting, and Chewie kind of plays dirty, right? He takes out a thermal detonator on Black Krrsantan, and well, that's basically how the fight ends, and it ends for now. Is none of them obviously die, right? But they both kind of go their separate ways. And it turns out that the Millennium Falcon is gone. They try to get out of there, and the Millennium Falcon is literally gone. So there you go. That's what happened in that issue. Overall thoughts so far, I think we have probably one more issue to close off this first arc. It's a very fun issue, or it's a very fun story that focuses on Han and Chewie that we all know and love. But I want to see how this concludes with this so-called father of Han Solo. Is it really the father that worked on the Corellian YT-1300s and the Corellian Yards, or is this just another person that's playing a con man, sort of like what Han does sometimes? So it's very enjoyable. I do want a little bit more depth. It's interesting that they're telling this story now, is what I will say about that. So that's going to do it for all the comics that released this week. What do you plan on picking up? Let me know in the comment section down below. For more on Star Wars in general, you're already in the right place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and go ahead and hit that notification bell icon, because that'll keep you up to speed on whenever new content comes out. You'll be alerted on your phone. So that's gonna do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.